Hey guys, this is part two of a tutorial that I started yesterday on surveying. The one that I was using here um, is race pond siding that we started yesterday, and the tutorial is not to show you how to set it up for uh, the new route A line, because I'm going to be doing that anyways. And that'll be available the next release of RTS, which should be shortly. I'm going to be doing this whole thing anyways, at least getting it set up so that it's usable for A-line. So anyways, this is for the future. This is if the other routes come out, such as, like, let's say Chicago or something like that, where I'm not going to set it up for RTS. This is going to be a tutorial to help you understand how to do it. It's not that complicated. It looks as it looks. It's not as user-friendly, but hey, it works. So I started it off. You can see here hopefully you can see on this video. I'm hoping the resolution's okay. But I use a spreadsheet. I don't know if I included it in the original RTS beta release. I will probably include it in the next one. But you can make a spreadsheet and do it yourself. It's not a problem. Looking at the actual survey file that we created yesterday, you can see that there's the current route prefix of 140. That's I just put that in its own route column here so that I know for future reference when I actually build up the files for RTS that's what I'm going to use. 520. I'm going to actually minimize this here. Let's see here. Okay. Is it minimized? Yeah, good enough. Because we don't need both of them going in. You want to work with both of them, so that's what we'll do. Okay, now you can go through and see both of them. Oops, see both of them. I was saying you don't need all this data too. There we go. So just position it. So yeah, so 140 set in there. 520. I've already started some of this, and then the phone rang, so I started the recording again. And I won't go through every value, but I'll show you how you start it. So 520 is inserted there. TSI A. That's track section index A. These fields, I just name them so I know what they are. So the first index, or track section index, we're going to be measuring is 520. And this is all about measurements. Now, this first value is the very first car that's in that track section index, and it's 12.48 whatever blah blah blah. Just copied and pasted. I put it in there. So now, and by the way, I use the same cars. I always use the empty well cars or trailer cars. They're both the same length between the trucks. I've already tested the measurements, and I'll show you a little bit more about that. So now you're scrolling down, and you're seeing it's growing. The numbers are increasing. It's going up to 52. We're going up to 74. 520. You're looking for a change. So 520. We're still 520. Still 520. The meters is still increasing up to 183. 520. Blah blah blah. So you're scrolling through this, and this is what you have to do. You literally have to do. Okay, there, it changes. So the last one here is 520, and it's 248.01485 whatever 62. You want to copy this, and you want to paste that there. Okay. Direction A, true. That doesn't really matter. I think I was using it if the directions changed, but that's always going to be the same. So I just copy it from a previous entry. Now you might see here there's a 2.82 value and there's an 18.83 value. What happens when you go from one track section of 520 and you start off on another, which is 522, you can see we start over with the numbers again. When the track section changes, and these are the trucks. This is your first truck and your second truck of each car. When the trucks change between the couplers, It's a very short distance between those two trucks, so it's changed under the couplers. Just keep that in mind. So the block is changed underneath the couplers, therefore you want to copy the 2.82, paste that there. Because although you can't measure it here, it's 2.82. Had it changed in between, you can do the math right there. Take 19 and minus that, you would end up with 18.83. 18.83 is normally what you're going to get as far as when they actually the actual block changes in between, not block, track section changes in between the trucks of the actual car. And I use the biggest cars for that reason, just in case there's a small track section, which there can be some really small ones. So now you want to go in here, and it's changed to 522. So you want to change to 522, and we got a stupid dog upstairs as usual. All these distractions. So I'm copying the old formulas here. So it's getting me that. And now the new forward. See, we're starting with B now. So 522 B section. That's just for reference. This area here is just for reference. This is actually calculations. Now we want to take 0.85. Copy that. Paste that. Okay. So right away, this is what we're going to surmise from this. You can see the figure here that's calculated as 249.98. You can use that. You might be able to round it up to 250 because it's probably closer to that, depending upon slack when it's selected. If it's on a bit of a grade, you'll get a tiny bit of slack in it when you select it. It's probably closer to use 250. It doesn't have to be absolutely perfect. As long as it's close and it works for the trains, you should be fine. The trucks kind of reposition themselves. They find each other when you're placing something. So again, so we got 520, 522. We know that the block for 520 is now approximately 250 in total, and that's the value you're going to enter into RTS so that it knows what's going on. And I'll finish more of this and I'll show you. I'll pause this now and I'll show you all the values. Okay, I wanted to stop at this one. Actually, 520. Here's a common one actually. As you can see, 522 and 524. One truck's in 522, the other truck's in 524. So the rear of the first block, or the rear of the 522 block, is now 239.195. You copy that in, paste it, and now we're going to be starting at 524. Again, the left side here is for information. You're going to be using it to add into your RTS data later on. Now, because the change happened in between, and you can't calculate that. You look at that, it's like, okay, how am I supposed to calculate a difference because it starts at a smaller number, right? Well, we know that those trucks are 18.83. So we copy that, paste that over, copy the formula here. Now you say 258.02, well, you know, that doesn't really tell you much, but watch the formula change. Notice the 8.025, and we go like this, like you look 258.025, right? It's like, that's a weird number. Now sometimes you do get weird numbers. These lengths are all not fairly perfect, but I do round them off and they seem to make sense. 249.9999. Well, guess what? It's 250. We know that. And all of the RTS data you will see later on is rounded up. I rarely use that many decimal places. Obviously that's 250. It's just off by, you know, that little fraction. So I'm going to finish doing the rest of that. That's the two examples of the differences. Again, 2.82 is used if the difference happens between car A and car B, or C and D, or whatever, wherever it can be. And 18.83 happens when the change in the track section occurs between the actual trucks of the car. And I'll pause this and finish this all up, and we'll get the data in. Okay, real quick, I'm about 10-15 minutes into this, but I did want to show you something that's very common, especially with the long sidings, which is cool. I like the long sidings because you can fit bigger trains, or long spurs, I should say, like the Yuma sub recently extended. Um, Anyways, 544 was the last block that I could fit on the spreadsheet. I could make the spreadsheet wider so that it can contain a few more blocks, but there's times where, like at Colton, where you get all kinds of blocks. What blocks are used is dependent upon how it's designed in the route. I'm not privy to that information, so I don't know if they, get particular same pieces. It seems like 250 is a very common piece that's used for the maximum. I forget if there's ones that are longer than that or not. But anyways, the longer it is, the more it's going to take, and then you take smaller pieces, I guess, to get to the track to the where you want it, I guess, or how it goes. Anyways, try to get this all in the 15 minutes without blabbing. What I did was the last one, which is 92.6101. I put that in there. 18.83 again because it happened in between. Then I started 11.44, copied that into what is F. These here I'll show you later. That's the XYZ coordinates that you'll also have to put in. That places your avatar at a location when you spawn it. This is just for information. It calculates all the data and basically calculates it into feet from meters. So we're starting over at 546. So all you're doing right here at this point is you got your data here. Let me try not to get it here. Forward, you're starting a new one. So you're basically putting the same information that you just put there. So 11.44 is the start of the new one, which is 546. Makes sense? It's the end of the old one. It's the start of a new one. It's just for so that you're on a new row and you know what's going on. And from there, you can just calculate it from there for the rest of the block. And I'll pause this now and get this done and entered into the RTS system so you know what you're doing at that point. Okay, just finishing up the data entry part of this. Once you finally come to the final block, and it took quite a few actually, because there's a lot of small ones, which are quite common, you want to enter the coordinates. You don't want the rotation. This is the end of the file, by the way, so that's it. You want to put in the camera coordinates, X, Y, Z somewhere. Don't worry about the rotation. That's not important. The tile is. So RTS will put in the rotation to default values. I think it's 0 or whatever it is. And then you want to put in the actual X and Z tile. And some of them are negatives. That's a negative 12. And I'll show you quickly how to put it into the actual RTS data. Okay, the first file you want to do is the routes file, which is that 140 route. As you can see down in the file below, run as administrator notepad so that you can save it. I've added the new route number 140 and the appropriate path to the CSXA line. So now you open up the blocks file. Currently I have it set to 15. I'm entering a new one, which is going to be race pond. So I changed that value to 16. Go down to the bottom of the file, and you can see down here it's all set up, and I'll start typing and explaining what everything is to save some time. Okay, finally, this is the end of the file here. You want to save it and make sure there's no, doesn't matter, you don't have to have any values after that. But you got the 3 sets of rows for each. You got the ones I just described, all the block numbers. You can take these and copy and paste them, and they'll actually show up, and you just have to remove the tab formatting, delete, and comma. And then finally, these ones down here, everything's solid numbers. Everything's rounded up, usually to the nearest, if not decimal place, like 29.5. I know there's a lot of 29.515s in there for whatever reason, but then eventually you'll come to one that's 29.50. I think that's just slack. 29.5 is probably the average. There's a 139.5 in there. Then you just have to test it and troubleshoot it. We'll do that at a later time. Probably going to be the next video, but I'll let you know. Thanks a lot.